As Valentine's Day approaches and we bask in the glow of last night's love song sing-along, and great gratitude to everybody who made that happen. It was a wonderful song fest, and thank you. Our minds turn to thoughts of love. How might I love thee, and thee, and thee, and thee, and thee, and thee, and thee? Let me count the ways. I've said it before and it bears repeating. Love is not just one thing. There are as many ways to love as there are people, as many dimensions of love as there are unique human relationships. The Greek philosophers identified 8 distinct varieties of love: philautia, the love of self; storge and philia, the love of those closest to us; eros and ludus, passionate and flirtatious love; pragma, which is enduring, sustaining love; agape, a universal love for all beings. So many varieties of love. Our new Unitarian Universalist statement of values, advancing the long-standing 8 principles of our faith into a newly integrated form, places love at the center, with the statement, and I quote, "We draw from our heritages of freedom and reason, hope and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love inspires and powers the passion with which we embody our values. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity." And as we live into our values, love is at the center of our faith. Love inspires and powers our passion. As we say each week, love is the spirit of this church. In my own theology, love is the divine power and connective tissue of the universe. There are so many varieties of love, and there are so many varieties of people to love. Just about this time last year, I created a 2-sermon series on belonging and othering, as I talked about identity, exclusion and belonging, diversity, acceptance, and practicing compassion. Othering is a term used to describe our human tribal pattern of closing ranks with those we think are the most like ourselves, shutting out others who are different from us. Othering is the opposite of love. Othering creates a barrier to separate the other from ourselves, from those we embrace in a community of belonging. Othering isolates those outside the circle of our love and acceptance. In those sermons last year, I invited us all to enter the intimate territory of our identities, to explore our capacity to accept diversity, moving from us versus them to all of us, exercising the practice of compassion within our circles of belonging. We humans come in many forms, and we're diverse not only in shape and size and the color of our skin and our physical features. We are also diverse in ways not immediately evident to the casual observer, as we are diverse within our brains and in our core identities. The diversity in the way our brains work is known broadly as neurodiversity. The diversity in our core identities takes many forms, including the varied families or groups we feel part of, our self-perception and relationship with our body, and our gender identity, moving beyond the binary into more complex and interwoven patterns of male, female, both, and neither. In the presence of such human diversity and the new learning required to fully accept all these complexities, we may create boundaries and divisions by failing to recognize our common humanity across subtle differences in who we are, our inner beings, and the ways we encounter the world. To place love at the center and to create real belonging for all, it is important to recognize our differences as gifts, both within ourselves and among each other in community. In understanding and accepting the differences in the ways our brains work, for instance, our neurodiversities, we can expand our horizons and enrich our lives as we explore all the ways people perceive, think, and understand. I had a friend, for instance, whose particular gift was being able to look at a drawing on a piece of paper and see it in 3 dimensions, which not everyone can do. His gift made him an excellent computer technician, since he could look at a wiring diagram and immediately see all the connections in the system. His gift also created challenges in his life, since when he looked at a page of written words, the letters popped out into 3 dimensions and sometimes turned themselves around, making it very hard for him to learn to read. So he was diagnosed with dyslexia. Once he realized what was happening and grasped the complex skill of making the letters sit still, his gifts really paid off. He was able to leap ahead in his career and his life. Another neurodiversity is memory loss, whether caused by amnesia, stroke, Alzheimer's, or another condition, a diversity that carries a burden of sorrow and even of shame as people find themselves losing parts of their identity that are encoded in our long-term and short-term memories. I spoke last year about the work of neuroscientist and novelist Lisa Genova, who has studied the relationship challenges around neurodiversity, including the various forms of dementia, examining the impact of our being, our identity, our circles of belonging. Genova's research found that we may other those with neurodiversities because we do not understand that even with memory loss, we still have our common humanity, and there are gifts to be found in difference. Another neuroscientist, Jill Bolte Taylor, in her book My Stroke of Insight, writes of her experience and recovery from a hemorrhagic stroke to her left brain when she was in her 30s, which included a significant loss of memory. Bolte describes this deep sweetness of living in the moment as the forced quieting of her left brain's reactive reasoning taught her that we can choose to replace our stress, fear, and anxiety with feelings of joy and deep peace. And so she was able to hold on to that even as she recovered the full functioning of her brain. There are surprising gifts in the variety of ways our brains work and the deep learning for us all as we rejoice in those gifts. ADHD, the diversity characterized by the patterns of a very active brain, a brain that requires constant stimulation, is another neurodiversity which offers a unique mix of gifts and challenges. Along with the gifts of creativity and energy, the ability to make unusual connections and think outside the box, there are also challenges of needing to keep the brain constantly occupied. So the direction to sit still and pay attention becomes a contradiction in terms. People with less active brains may not be able to sit still and pay attention. Or people with more active brains may not be able to sit still and pay attention. And people with less active brains may not realize that using fidget toys, knitting, or scrolling on a smartphone is not paying attention or not ignoring what's going on, but is actually the best way for some people to stay alert, to listen closely and focus on the topic at hand. People who don't realize that our brains work in a variety of diverse and highly functional ways may unfortunately criticize a person who's simply adapting to the gifts and challenges of different brain structures. It's important to recognize and embrace all our neurodiversities as we center love in our relationships. There are also unique gifts and challenges that come with being a person on the autism spectrum, and Ryan Roberts, who was eager to do this, will now share with us his own experience with autism. Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Roberts. I'm he, him. I'm wearing this beautiful purple UU Revival hat, and I got this white green shirt. I want to dedicate this message to my sister, who's sitting out in the lobby out there, and my elementary school teacher, my special ed elementary school teacher when I was a kid. Today, I'm excited to share about autism. I have Asperger's. I have high functioning autism. First, I am going to share some of my struggles. Communication can be hard for me, especially dealing with a difficult person. It can be overwhelming. Change can be hard for me and gives me a lot of anxiety. Everything in my life can be difficult and frustrating. It can be hard and probably takes longer than most people. Now I'm going to share some of the great things of autism. I am different, which I think is really cool. I like being different, so. I love structure and routine, which helps me be really great at my job. I have overcome a lot of difficulties. Even through my difficulties, I have accomplished great things. It was a lot more work, but I became a black belt in Taekwondo. I have competed in various martial arts tournaments. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about Christianity and different faiths. I have started an autism support group on Facebook. I'm thinking about starting a mental health autism group in person or on Zoom, maybe in the near future. So reach out to me if you have interest in that. I don't know the future, but plan on accomplishing many things. I just wanted to encourage you. If you have autism, you can do amazing things. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. It's such a privilege to have you with us as an active member of the congregation. And I'll tell you, when Amazon brings the right thing to your door, you may be thanking Ryan for that happening. So it's good to have people sharing their gifts with us every day. Another type of diversity is our gender identity, which has always been a part of human life and which has come into greater focus in recent years as our society has moved not always smoothly toward acceptance, embracing into belonging all the gender identities within and among us. Pronouns are one factor in gender identity that's come to the forefront in our awareness, since using a person's correct pronouns is important as we show love, acceptance, and respect for them. Our intentionality about identifying our pronouns and asking someone what their pronouns are signifies our acceptance of the gender binary and beyond. The personal pronouns most of us learned early in our lives are binary: she, her for female, and he, him for male. For many of us, our grade school English teachers made sure that we used they only as a plural pronoun, speaking of more than one person. That has changed in recent years as people who don't identify in the gender binary, neither he nor she, search for a pronoun that would fit who they are. And even the New Oxford Dictionary of English began over 25 years ago to accept the singular they. So if you have trouble with using they in the singular, know that the New Oxford Dictionary of English is a quarter century ahead of you in that. And they also use that form in their definitions. And we're starting to use it in all of our contract language and all of our policies. So why is this shift in our thinking so hard for some of us to make? Well, it's probably in part about the influence of our English teachers, but it's bigger than that. In the binary world of gender, one of the first questions people often ask about a baby in a stroller, or about a newborn, or even about a baby not yet born is it a boy or a girl? And those who help bring a baby into the world will often announce girl or boy as soon as the baby's in their hands. What would it mean if that announcement instead was something like, it's a wonderful human being who will determine their gender and tell us their pronouns based on their inner knowing as they grow up? It's a wonderful human being. That matters, because while many people have an inner gender identity that's the same as the reproductive system with which they were born, many among us do not, and they discover their true gender identity as they mature. There are many varieties of gender identity. There are those like myself whose inner knowing is the same as our evident biology, male or female. That's called cisgender. There are also people who celebrate the inner reality that they are neither male nor female, but rather gender fluid or gender queer, and they will often choose they/them pronouns. And then there are those whose inner experience of their gender binary is binary but opposite the physical aspects of their body. So even if their body at birth was identified as male, they know themselves as female and use she, her pronouns, or vice versa, whether or not they have done any other elements of transforming their gender. And there are some, whatever their biology, whose inner knowing is fluid and variable. So they use he, him pronouns one day, she, her pronouns another, they, them another time. Why is this important? So why is the use of someone's correct pronouns part of our commitment to love and belonging? So remember what I said just a moment ago about gender being pretty much the first thing that identifies us? Our pronouns and our gender identity are core elements of our humanity. And so using the pronouns that align with a person's gender identity is a deeply relational act of love and respect. And for someone who has recognized their core identity and taken the risk to tell others their true pronouns, it's an act of vulnerability and trust as they rely on us to get their true pronouns correct when we greet or speak of them. Here at church, as we center our relationships in love, we provide pronoun stickers for our name tags at the welcome desk, and some people have pronoun buttons that they wear. We speak our pronouns when we introduce ourselves in the service or other public settings. We add them to our names on Zoom so they become part of how we present ourselves to the world. Using our pronoun identifiers as well as learning to know a person's pronouns as we meet them, remembering them later as we greet them, are all ways of centering each other in love in this community. We are diverse in so many subtle ways, in our brains, in our gender identity, and in the physical diversity of our bodies and our self-image. Morgan Herford now shares a reflection on self-compassion and body neutrality as we learn to become a people centered in love and acceptance of ourselves and others, a community of true belonging. Morgan.
One of the unexpected side effects of describing ourselves for visual accessibility is that it gives a window into how we see our bodies. After all, we are each describing what we see when we look in the mirror, or what we see when we reflect upon our appearance with our inner eyes. As a gender fluid person, an added benefit to me personally is that I get to tell you what I'm trying to express in the way I have presented myself. So, my name is Morgan. I am a gender fluid person, which means that my gender and pronouns change at irregular intervals. Today, my pronouns are she, her, and I am a medium-sized, in every dimension, woman staring down middle age with determination, with shoulder-length brown wavy hair and brown eyes. I am wearing a black long-sleeve shirt with silver threads, gray swishy pants, and large round glasses. My personal journey with body neutrality begins with a story of growing up in the 1990s. Anyone who recalls the media from that time might remember the number of makeover scenes, from She's All That, to My Big Fat Greek Wedding, The Princess Diaries, Miss Congeniality, and so many more. The before looks in these films and similar shows held at least 2 or 3 of the following elements: brown, curly, or frizzy hair, glasses, no makeup, flat shoes, clothing that is not fitted to the body. The makeover transformation, straightening the hair and adding highlights, switching glasses for contact lenses, adding makeup and high-heeled shoes, often with comedic awkwardness included, changed the subject from someone unattractive to someone desirable and therefore someone worthy of love. Despite the strides that I have made toward accepting myself, it was only very recently that my feelings shifted from what is wrong with me to what is wrong with them. How dare the collective writing rooms of America make me and those who look like me a trope, a shorthand for ugliness? Little wonder that I spent a long time feeling unlovable, especially after coming out as gender fluid and beginning the struggle to be seen at all, much less be seen as attractive. Well-meaning people would tell me to just love myself, but it just wasn't that easy for me. A therapist tried to make me look in a mirror and say, I loved me. The result was I cried for the rest of the session and got nowhere. The rise of body positivity seems great at first. After all, it's positive. But it comes with a problem. It says, if I say, I'm beautiful and attractive as I am, it continues to reinforce the idea that one's value is measured by physical attraction and romantic love. Body positivity says, I have value because my body is beautiful too. Body neutrality says, I have value because I am a person. It doesn't matter if I or anyone else likes my rolls, my eyes, my hair, my wrinkles, or my scars. A body isn't good or bad, it just is. You can love every part of yourself, or you can wake up in the morning, look down at yourself and say, why me? Or any combination of feelings in between. You still have value, and you are still deserving of compassion, food and shelter, and love in whatever way it comes to you. This body is sometimes a difficult body, and sometimes a body that I don't even like very much, but it is mine, and therefore precious to me. We are endowed by the fact of our existence with innate value. That is the essence of body neutrality, and hopefully, if we practice it, the beginnings of self-compassion and self-love. Thank you.
Yes. So the Pride Support Alliance, and Jimmy will also say this later, is doing a workshop on self-compassion and body neutrality later this month. Thank you, Morgan. Living with love at the center begins with self-compassion and self-love, recognizing that the great gifts in all our diverse ways of being human are gifts, and becoming ever more intentional to practice the behaviors of love with ourselves and others, to remember our pronouns, to give grace as we're learning the process, to take it seriously that we respect and honor each other in all of our glorious variety. Life is a journey, we're learning as we go, and so we seek now and always for more love, more ways to bring love into the center in all we do, as we say amen and blessed be. Natasha will now introduce our closing hymn, There's More Love Somewhere. It's number 95 in your hymnal. If you like holding a hymnal, the words will be on the screen.